Area Comprehensive Transportation System, commonly known as BACTS, collaborated with the Maine DOT to hold an event today for Crash Responder Safety Week. Sierra Whaley has more.
There's absolutely nothing more important than your people coming home.
In Maine, authorities see over 700 crashes in work zones a year, which is why they work hard to remind travelers to be aware of their surroundings while on the road.
This is a team sport. It truly takes everybody involved in order to get this thing done.
Maine Public Safety Commissioner Mike Soschuk spoke at Dysarts in Herman at an event for Crash Responder Safety Week. He discussed the Slow Down, Move Over statute and how it is inspiring officials to elevate the law.
In a world where information is power, if we can give drivers the information that they're coming up on a scene where there is an ambulance or an ambulance is responding and they're in their immediate area, we know, in fact, that's going to make our first responders safer.
After the death of Maine State Police Detective Ben Campbell, he says they worked to increase the slow down, move over violation fines because they weren't receiving as much voluntary compliance as they would have liked. Maine Department of Transportation Commissioner Bruce Van Note says there's nothing more jarring than receiving that phone call.
When you get the call that someone got killed, and I unfortunately have had that call 3 times in my commissionership, and it doesn't matter whether it's one of your crews or a contractor.
As a first responder who has been struck while working in the roadway, Chief Cody Sullivan of the Herman Fire Department asks the public to help them do their jobs because at the end of the day, they want what most of us want, to go home to their loved ones safely.
Slow down, move over, save yourself, and save a life of someone. I can tell you there's nothing more important.
Sierra Whaley, WABI News, Herman.